I need it. Yep, that's me. You're probably not wondering how I got here, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. It all started a couple nights ago. I was up late watching some Halo Combat Evolved speedruns, and I got the idea to throw a challenge together. You've seen the title, which means now comes the time I explain exactly what plasma pistol only means for me. Basically, for all the geniuses out there, plasma pistol only means plasma pistol only. Furthermore, that means no grenades and no punching. However, I am allowed to use grenades for jumps and tricks and backsmacking with the plasma pistol. The only exception to this rule is if the game forces you to kill an enemy and you have no plasma pistol, which in that case I'll just punch whatever it is to death. Honestly, I really didn't expect this to be that hard, even with playing a legendary, but what I didn't account for was the fact that it's actually kind of hard to get a plasma pistol in the first place. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Our journey begins drifting in space towards a comically sized mood ring. Speeding away from the angry space bandits, our goal was to take refuge upon the ring, and maybe while we're at it, I don't know, release a 100 million year old parasite that violently mutates and destroys life beyond recognition? You know, the usual. After being rudely awoken by Cortana's shitty driving, I was directed straight towards the flight deck to speak directly to Captain Keyes. After having a little trouble getting out of my cryopod, I started following a crew member. Yeah, I'm good, man. Oh. Yeah, he's probably fine.
I'm a cowardly fool!
Yeah, that. Oh, he's dead. Never mind. I'm sorry. I should not have said anything.
Secure those blast doors. Move!
Oh no, there's blood.
Stay back! Oh yeah!
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Sir,
Move.
the captain needs you on the bridge ASAP. You better follow me.
So, my best time is 43 seconds. Not exactly impressive. I do know one speedrun trick, though. Whoop. Look at that. I'm so good at the game. Yeah, I know.
Captain Keyes.
World record run right there.
Good to see you, Master Chief. Things aren't going well.
Keyes then went on to explain to me that the space paparazzi completely outnumbered us and we'd have to abandon ship. Most importantly, though, I needed to extract Cortana, a funky-looking glorified super weapon, which also happens to be every 13-year-old's video game goddess back in 2001. After speaking to Captain Keyes, he gave me this disgustingly overpowered hand cannon that I can't even use.
I don't keep it loaded, son. You'll have to find ammo as you go.
Okay, I don't want this, alright, sir? Me no gusta. That was not... Yeah, okay, maybe, I don't know. Have you seen my goose? He is missing. Reward offered. Okay, this is what I'm kind of scared about. I need to get through that door. But I can't really shoot them. Not even 2 minutes in, and we've already hit an impasse. These three grunts need to die in order for the door to open, and I don't have a plasma pistol. I tried luring them back into the flight deck, so like maybe one of the crew members can kill them, but they didn't even follow me. I also tried to get them to shoot each other, but even if this did work, they don't even drop plasma pistols upon death, so there'd just be one guy left, and I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So yeah, 2 minutes in, and I already failed. You cannot beat Halo Combat Evolved with only a plasma pistol. Theoretically, you could if you had 2 players, because I remember as a kid when I killed my brother, he'd always respond with a plasma pistol, but on the Halo PC MCC, there is no split screen, and I have no friends. For me, this level was actually pretty misleading. This level being one of the easier ones set the premise of this challenge being easy, but no. It didn't help anything that I had to run past the overshield. And in general, I feel like people overlook how hard Halo Combat Evolved actually is on Legendary. But with a little elbow grease, I managed to pull through just fine. Get me out of here! I just want to laugh. Get me out of here! And with that, I ended off with the unrespectable time of 18 minutes and 29 seconds, which compared to some of my other times, not that bad. but nothing could prepare me for the pure storm that was coming my way. Fun fact, this is actually my least favorite mission in the entirety of Halo Combat Evolved. Yeah. And that includes the library. I prefer the library over this mission. Honestly, this is kind of due to the fact that I actually kind of consider this mission pretty boring. I mean, you're just running around the same canyon looking for Marines, so there's not really much going on. But regardless, the mission starts out with us picking up at least 3 grenades, which will come in handy later. But for now, the main challenge is getting past the first area. Among the 2 Banshees, there's actually a Covenant squad waiting up the ridge for you. These guys actually led to a number of my deaths, but interesting enough, you can actually do a grenade jump to skip them entirely, but it looks kind of hard, so I didn't do it. Okay, I got this. Easy straight shot. Don't kill me! Oh, I'm gonna make it. Dude, easy. Didn't even break a sweat. And from that point on, it only got harder. At this section, at first I wanted to wait for a Marine to kill a grunt so I could get a plasma pistol, but they'd always end up dying usually, so I just decided to run past it. Which, not a great idea on my part. It took me like 3 minutes alone just to get to the first jump section, and then after that it took me way longer just to get past the bridge section. Used one of my grenades here for a cool little jump. Normally you're supposed to have the Warthog here, but since I didn't save the Marine's foe hammer, didn't deliver me one. So, we're walking. Also, you may have noticed that my time skyrocketed by at least 7 minutes in between clips. That's because my G-Force decided to fuck me, and I had to re-record this entire section. For this section, the strategy is to ignore all the enemies and hug the left side. Then once you get further up, make a break for the bridge part, and try not to get spotted by the grunts. And then you just do a jump here, followed by a grenade jump, and then you run for your life. Now, when it came to getting back on the actual bridge, I had 2 options. I could either A, run into the ramp and get shot by every single enemy in the game, or B, do a 3rd and final grenade jump and just avoid all the enemies completely. Ooh, easy. Started my 2nd marathon, and had a hell of a time trying to get a plasma pistol. At these Marine rescue sections, the strategy was actually just to murder the Marines, and then run to the next one, murder the Marines again, and then actually save the final Marines. This is because 1, it saves time, 2, it's easier, and 3, the game actually doesn't punish you at all for doing this. With that being said, initially I did try and wait for one of the Marines to kill Jackal so I could get a plasma pistol, but what would usually end up happening is Cortana would try and get me to clear the entire section before letting me move on, or the Marines would just die. Eventually though, I did just give up and move on to the next section without a pistol. Got attacked by a flying hair clip, and then went on to help the next group of Marines. As you can see here, I did actually manage to snag a plasma pistol off a dead body. Alright, at this section I had a lot of fun fighting off all the enemies, and by a lot of fun I meant I took a 20-minute break to talk to my grandma instead. Eventually though I did kill all the enemies, and my reaction to beating the mission about sums up how I felt about it.
There's our ride. Get aboard and let's
Get me
get
the
out.
hell out of here.
Welcome aboard, Master Chief. Ready for
Oh, that was horrible. Never again, please. Oh, I hate that mission.
move out, Lieutenant, and then we'll need your help on the rescue mission.
So yeah, that was fun. Anyway, on to arguably one of the best missions in Halo, and also arguably one of the hardest.
The enemy has captured Captain Keyes and are holding him aboard one of their cruisers, the Truth and Reconciliation.
To be honest, this mission actually went surprisingly well. The strategy for the first section here is to shoot off your sniper rifle so you can attract all the enemies. Obviously, I can't shoot the enemies, but I can use it to at least distract them. This is so the Marines can come over and kill a grunt for me. Even though this mission wasn't hard, it was actually kind of tedious. I had plenty of footage of me just sitting around waiting for the Marines to get a kill off. But all in all, these first few sections didn't go too bad. Now the grab lift section was what I was actually worried about. Speedrun strats for this section is to kill enemies with perfectly timed grenades. Obviously I can't do that, so I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. My plan was to hit an overshot with the elite and let the Marines do most of the work, while going in and backsmacking for cleanup. Honestly, these first few waves weren't even that hard. I was slightly worried about the hunters, but they ended up being okay as well. Seeing how the beginning of the mission was going, I wasn't actually even worried about the hangar fight. Okay, just go where the door opens. Kill these.
Contact! Lots of contact!
Oh shit.
Over there!
Okay, That's difficult. Anyway, as you can see, the hangar was a breeze, and it was time to move on to the RNG room. But before I did so, I had to pick up an active camo. Now, you may be wondering why speedrunners call it the RNG room. They call it that because there's a door in this room that only enemies can open, and need to get them in that specific position so they can open the door, but it only happens every so often. What I mean by this is sometimes a grunt will spawn by the door and keep it open, which is what happened for me, but other times you'll have to shoot off your gun in very specific ways that an enemy will come over and open the door for you. Now the next room up ahead is the hangar, which is a huge fight with a bunch of enemies, which I thought was going to be pretty annoying, so I decided to do a trick instead. Over here by this wraith is an overshield. Now if you didn't know, when an overshield is charging up, you're temporarily invincible, which means if I were, per se, to throw like 30 grenades underneath me and stand above it, it wouldn't kill me. Unless you're really bad at it like I am. Yeah, for first time users of this trick, it actually takes a little bit of practice. Oh no, I spent an hour or two getting good at it, but I think it was worth it. Then you just throw a grenade here and get on top of the spirit. Then throw a grenade here. And completely mess up the f***ing jump because you have no idea what you're doing. Anyway, one retry later and... Funnily enough, even with the like 20 minutes or so I spent trying to do this trick, it's still actually the fastest time I've ever beaten this level. Anyway, let's go rescue Keys. My strategy in this room was pretty simple. I took out as many sleeping grunts as possible, then ran up to take out the golden elite. And after that, I had a fun time taking out all the other elites. Eventually I got it and went to go actually rescue Captain Keys. Taking out the guards first, I went to go speak to the man. He informed us that the ring we were on was some sort of secret super weapon, in a way that totally doesn't conflict with the future games, and after carefully walking through the halls, we were done. Normally in this mission, after you killed a wave or two, you'd have to walk to the hangar yourself, but since I messed up the triggers with the grenade trick I did, I actually didn't have to do that. The game just ends here.
That's it. The dropship is loose.
Everybody, mount up. Let's get on board.
Next up is the most iconic mission in Halo history. Normally, speedrunners skip this fight entirely by turning around and running, and I did do that, but first I had to grab a plasma pistol. And then after securing my weapon, I turned around like an angry dad on a road trip. This path has a bunch of enemies, but my strategy was to run around, backsmack the elite, and run up the hill. As always, the hunter section was pretty easy, and from here on out, I was smooth sailing. Took out more hunters, then disabled the security system. Then from there, I left and picked up a warthog and headed over to the actual control center. It took me a little while to clear all the enemies, but once I did, I was able to progress. Shot my gun to avoid a cutscene, and aligned myself so that when I jumped I could fall in such a way that I wouldn't take any fall damage. First try. And from here, I dropped down this overshield to avoid fall damage, did the control panel thingies, and took an entire f***ing hour to escape. I'm not even going to tell you why it took me so long. Just know it was a pain in the ass, and I hate jackals. Now it's time to do assault in the control room. The mission starts out with the distraction grenade, which I used to run past the Covenant squad. These hallways are jam-packed with enemies, and it's actually very easy to die here. I crouch here to hide from the elite and to regain my shields, and when I was ready, I took off. All in all, this first section wasn't too bad, and it was time to move on to the bridge. Now, at the bridge, I had to learn a relatively simple trick called bridge fall, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The goal of bridge fall is to get down from the bridge all the way to the ground without dying. You can do this by jumping on a series of ledges, shown here. This trick lets you skip like the entire level, because after you do this, no enemies spawn, and you can just walk the rest of the level in peace.
I didn't think there were any human forces left on this part.
This part is always scary for me, but I haven't messed it up yet. And for the rest of the mission, I just ride around in a ghost. And then later I pick up a Banshee to fly up to these bridges. Walk through some corridors, and bam, that's AOTCR in under 9 minutes.
The last transmission from the captain's dropship was from this area. That was over 12 hours ago.
343 Guilty Spark. My favorite mission in the entirety of Halo Combat Evolved. Besides the library, of course. This mission terrified me as a kid. I think it was the combination of the swampy, dark atmosphere, combined with the terrifying threat that was foreshadowed at the start of this video, all put into the unholy amalgamation that is 343 Guilty Spark. Honestly, this mission does so many things right. For instance, I think it's really interesting to see the Covenant run away from an unknown entity that when you approach, just isn't there. It helps build suspense and a sense of unknowing. Furthermore, I think the body cam footage found by Master Chief later in the mission really just complements the level altogether. But anything, last thing, real quick, if I had one critique for this mission, I think it would be that the level design is kind of repetitive, especially inside the structure, but that's just a minor critique. Anyway, the level begins as soon as we get off the elevator, and we have to progress through some basic hallways. As you can see here, I had a fun time getting past all the enemies. I tried a distraction grenade here, but I don't really think it did anything. The main strategy here was to jump down, then hug the left side of the wall. I feel like I'm noticing a trend in these past two levels. I'm not getting any plasma pistols. There's literally nothing I can do. Fun fact, there is actually a speedrun trick that lets you skip past the level, and the way you do it is... What? I'm gonna let you guys take a solid guess to figure out what just happened. Is it A, my G-Force decided to f me? B, my G-Force decided to f me? C, my G-Force decided to f me? Or D, you guessed it, my G-Force decided to f me? That's right, none of those, you idiot. But no, actually, I'm the idiot. Turns out I actually didn't have enough space in my drive, so time to re-record, yeah! Okay, enough of this montage. I progressed throughout this facility and eventually stumbled upon this guy who kind of reminds me of my buddy Josiah. Cool beans. Eventually though, I did make it to the spooky room. Watched one of the coolest cutscenes in the game. You know, this kind of reminds me of someone. Then came the masses of little guys. Honestly, there's not too much to say about this section. It was pretty easy. Escaping the facility was a little more difficult, but offered no greater challenge. This jump was called Camo Jumo by speedrunners. Anyway, like I said, it was pretty easy. I just ran past the flood and nothing really happened. Outside at the end of the mission, I just ran around and waited for the sentinels to die. Weirdly enough, the end trigger for this mission is actually tied to them dying, so you actually don't need to kill any flood. Thank you. And that's 343 Guilty Spark and 1613. And now for everyone's favorite mission. You know it, you love it, it's the library! No, but real talk, this mission definitely lived up to its name during the challenge. It was by no means a pushover, which honestly shouldn't be that surprising. Off the bat, I do a small speedrun trick which skips some enemy spawn triggers, but honestly I'm still being chased by enemies, so it really didn't do all that much. I'm aware you can make this next jump without a grenade, but I did it with a grenade. Anyway, like I said, it just skips some spawn triggers so there's not as many enemies overwhelming me. Controversial take, but for this mission, and this mission alone, classic graphics looks terrible in this mission. So don't hate me, but I'm going to use Anniversary. I know I did for Guilty Spark 2, but that was mostly just because I had to redo the level. My original strategy was just to run past everything, but with how checkpoints work in this game, that just wasn't going to work. Eventually though, I got smart and got a bloater to kill one of the flood guys that had a plasma pistol. And seeing how everyone loves this level, I'm just going to speed it up by like 1,000. I'm not going through this whole level. The only key points to this mission is yes, I did beat it with only a plasma pistol, yes, it was annoying, and no, I did not have fun. Apparently this mission was actually supposed to be better. There's a video of the devs talking about their plans for this level, and I'm not going to say it here because I don't know exactly what it is, but it actually sounds way better than what we got. The reason we didn't get that level is it all came down to timing and budgeting and all, you know, boring stuff like that. But holy crap is this mission long. Trust me when I say you are not missing out anything by me not doing a play-by-play. This mission legitimately is just the same hallways, the same doors, the same everything for hours. It's horrible. Eventually though, I was able to make it to the final door and make a break for the index. And that's the library in almost exactly an hour. Now time for the actual hardest mission in the game. I'm gonna be honest, this mission completely surprised me. I thought this one was gonna be a cakewalk, but no. No. This video should have honestly been released like 2 weeks ago, but this mission single-handedly pushed it back. But more on that later. Anyway, I'm just going to get into the level. Anyway, as you can see there, we started out by taking out a few sentinels, then a couple more plus another Covenant squad. This combat here is actually surprisingly difficult, so I like to hang back and pick off the grunts first. Then hopefully the sentinels can kill at least one elite, which would allow me to easily pick up the rest. But anyway, after mopping that up, I moved on to the exit door. This is where you with keen eyes would notice that I actually pressed the button twice, which is why when I exit, there's only 2 jackals and 2 elites that you can't see. This is a deload glitch that occurs when you perfectly time that button. Now in hindsight, I probably could have made it down to the Banshee without this, but it would have been really difficult and I didn't feel like doing that. Anyway, after picking up a health kit, I made it inside the Banshee. You may be wondering right now why I'm flying back up. That's because that button up there that I double pressed, that counts as a trigger. And in this level specifically, you have to hit every trigger in order, whether that be a button or just a specific spot on the map, in order for the mission to actually work. And in this case, for the trigger to work, you need to press the button once. But I was able to press it twice, which means I have to go back and press it again. Which, as you can see, spawns in all the aforementioned enemies. I feel the need that I need to restate this. Triggers in this level are vital. It's not an option, you need to hit every single one, otherwise you cannot complete the mission. It doesn't really help that for majority of them, you'll never know if you actually hit them, and the only way you can actually find out is if later in the mission things aren't working. But anyway, after arriving at the first phase pulse generator and taking out the Covenant squad, and then running past some sentinels, I was ready for my second major glitch. All in all, this was the hardest Halo glitch I've had to learn in the entirety of Halo Combat Evolved. It's called Bool, or Banshee out of level, and it's got a few steps to start up. First off, I delay a checkpoint with my plasma pistol, which allows me to position a Banshee in just the right location. And as you can see here, I already had one of the other Banshees inside. And then I do this thing. Pretty cool, huh? This platform here can be a little tricky, so you gotta be careful. But basically what I'm doing here is I'm avoiding a load zone so I can get back to my Banshee and fly through some walls. This is just the first part of a 3-part trick. That jump there is super tough. Then I just get into the Banshee, switch to old graphics, and look straight. This will load the hallway section in old graphics, meanwhile in new graphics I can see the entire map. I want the hallway section loaded in old graphics because I'm going to need to come back to it later. Part 2 of the trick is super tedious, but essentially you have to hit every single trigger in the game without being able to see them, in order, and without messing it up. Oh, and also you can't just blow through all the triggers, you have to stay in them for at least a second so the game can register that you actually entered them. As you may have guessed, this trick can be pretty boring, but at the end of the day, it's way better than going through the mission normally. Trust me. Honestly, while I was doing this challenge, I thought of a handful of other challenges I could attempt, but this mission alone makes me not want to try any of them. I mean, I guess it's better now that I'm actually pretty good at it, because I had to put so much time into learning how to do it, but it's bad taste. Anyway, after a bit more flying, it's time to do my first BSP load. We're going to go back to the original hallway we did the fling in, then do this little maneuver. This is going to load in the canyon, which is going to let us progress throughout the level. Then we follow this up with our second BSP load, which will load in a couple more things, then go hit even more triggers. This mission is really long. Finally took out the second generator, then made my way to the third and final BSP load and third and final generator. Up ahead I'm actually going to clip back in grounds, that way I can get a checkpoint. Yeah, that entire flying section we just did has 0 checkpoints, so if you mess up like any of the BSP loads and get stuck, good luck. This door right here is meant to block you from entering with a Banshee or any kind of vehicle, but we're going to bypass that. Basically what I'm trying to do here is get my right wing stuck between the doors so I can glitch my way in. And then once I do that, I kind of just have to wiggle my way through. I go in to hit this first trigger, but I lay off on the second one. This is so I can go open the door, because if I would have hit the second one, there'd be a big wave of flood with guns, and I didn't feel like dealing with that. Anyway, the rest of the mission was pretty simple. Once I got outside, I did have to wait for a couple flood to die so the ending would load, but other than that, it was pretty easy.
Target neutralized. Let's get out of here.
And that's 2 betrayals in 47 minutes.
Let's find a ride and get to the captain.
Speaking of keys, did you know this was actually the easiest mission in the entire game? This is because of a glitch you can do at the very start of the mission called a flood bump. By restarting the mission and skipping a cutscene at the perfect time, you can basically manipulate the game into making the flood that spawns at the beginning of the mission a reviver flood, which you can use for a flood bump. But essentially, I'm just going to lead this dude right back to where I spawned. Then I line myself up with that little gray scratch on the wall, knock down the flood, then stand on his head. And then when it gets back up, I get launched into the other room. This single-handedly skips like the entire mission, which makes this challenge pretty convenient. Anyway, once I get to this area, I have to kill every single enemy here. This is because if I don't, they're going to kill me during the cutscene. And there is a lot of enemies here. Defiled a corpse in front of its grieving family. And had to manipulate the flood into killing the Covenant that were trying to ambush me. Admittedly, the way I played this entire level was kinda cheap, but honestly I've been trying to do this challenge for way too damn long. I don't care anymore. But anyway, once I could, I made a break for the door, which then eventually led me out to the hangar. And once I got here, a Banshee arrived that I was gonna steal. At the end of this level, you get a little super Banshee that can go through walls and a super speed. Also, this level's on a timer and you can't die, so that's why I'm flying around all willy-nilly. Nine missions later, and now it's time for the final one. This mission starts out with us being introduced to Master Chief's horrible flying skills.
It'll hold.
We're not gonna make it.
We'll make it.
Pull up! Pull up!
Just kidding. Anyway, the mission starts out with us entering through an old escape pod hatch. And unlike the last two levels, you'll notice I didn't spawn with a plasma pistol. But after running through some vents and jumping down a ladder, I did manage to pick one up pretty quickly. This starting section wasn't too difficult, I just had to wait for the sentinels to kill some flood, which then allowed me to push through the level. When I got to the cafeteria section, I opted just to run through it. No sense in wasting any plasma. Took out the elite and the grunts at the bridge, and skipped the cutscene because who cares what they have to say. Anyway, after a little walking here and there, I made it to the cryo room. I skipped this first door and go to the second door, then I do this little nice time save. I'm really good at platforming. This makes it so the hallway that we're going to go up into next doesn't have as many enemies, which makes it easier to go through. Made sure to grab the overshield, and loaded up on rockets at the armory, which meant it was now time for the second main part of this mission. Failed at the grenade throw because I'm an idiot. Stuck it on the second time though. And once I got up to the second floor, it was time to take out the engines. Finally took out the remaining engines, and was ready to move on to the elevator. This little fight here was a little hard and took me a couple attempts, but I still got it. But luckily they were really good at killing themselves. And now it was finally time for the hardest part of this mission. You might be thinking to yourself, but Potato, the Warthog run is actually really easy and you're really just bad at the game. But yeah, no, you forget that I actually can't hit anything with my car, and there's like 3 million enemies out there, and if I run over a single one of them, I have to restart. Which is why at this first section, I carefully got out of the car and killed everyone. Finally though, I was ready to actually start driving. These big room sections were actually probably the easiest once I got down the strategy. Really, you just want to hug the right side. At first I tried to go down the middle ramps, but if you do that, enemies just kind of spawn on top of you, and yeah, it's not fun. Later up the road I took a shortcut, but I did have to get out of the car and kill some enemies first. A little driving there, a little driving here, and wow, hey, there's more driving. Nevertheless, I finally made it to Foehammer, who I promptly ignored.
Cortana to Echo 419. 2 Covenant Banshees are approaching on your...
Echo 419! She's gone.
That's unfortunate. In a past life, I visited the thirsty grunt, who spoke words of true wisdom to me.
Good thing that food nipple's waiting for me at the starship. Cause, man, if I worked up a...
Didn't do 360 swag because I was too scared. There really aren't any checkpoints during this section. Yikes, that was lucky. And at this portion, I couldn't risk running anything over, so I just had to get out and run. And it was close. Very, very close.
That's the ship. Move! We need to get aboard now!
And with only 7 seconds to spare, I did not beat Halo Combat Evolved with only a plasma pistol. This challenge was a lot of fun, except for 2 betrayals. I hated that mission. But you know what? That's okay. I'm glad I finally got to do a Halo challenge video, because I've wanted to do one for a while. Halo is one of those game series that I actually grew up playing on my Xbox 360. All in all, the original trilogy is some of my favorite games of all time. Right now, I'm thinking about maybe some Halo 2 or Halo Reach videos, but let me know down in the comments. And with that, thanks for watching. Bye!